Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous. And Anonymous sent me in a story from the Washington Post that that they wanted me to give my opinion on. They wanted to stay anonymous because they're afraid of backlash from just from reading it. So let's see what this is about. Best-selling paranormal romance writer accuses her husband of Shakespearean plot to poison her. Paranormal romance writers, fucking ghosts? Like, what is that? What is you in love with a ghost? Like, what is that shit? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So, yeah. I guess that's her. Author Sherilyn Kenyon of Nashville, shown here in 2011 in New York, is accusing her husband of plotting to poison her and seize control of her finances, allegations he denies. Well, we've dealt with a lot of poisoning on here, so could be legitimate. All right, January 17th story's been updated. Sherilyn Kenyon is the best-selling author of the Dark Hunter series. Began writing as a child to survive her own bleak circumstances, poverty and neglect punctuated by the shouts of her parents. "I'm gonna skin you alive the minute you fall asleep," she once heard her mother bellow at her father. "That's why my books have a lot of dark places in them. I find that therapeutic," Kenyon told the Tennessean last year. "As a small kid, you can slay the dragons. It is what gave me control." Problem is, a lot of time you keep looking for dragons to slay. And when you got a creative mind like this, you can create some pretty fierce dragons. But I don't know if that's what's going on here, so. But the page offered no salve for the circumstances that the author, now 53, says befell her several years ago. In late 2014, it became a labor for the author to breathe and walk. Her teeth putrefied. Her hair fell out in clumps. She endured tremors, stomach cramps, facial swelling, and vertigo. There was an unmistakable taste of metal in her mouth. Again, as many of you know, one of the reasons I had to cut back on my appearances and stop doing my annual fan convention a couple years ago was that out of the blue, I was viciously and painfully struck down by a bevy of strange, inexplicable, and baffling symptoms, the author, whose works of paranormal romance and urban fantasy have been New York Times bestsellers, told her fans in a newsletter this month. Now, I would wonder, being a writer like that, because it seems like she's writing lines for a book there and a story instead of explaining what happened to her. Again, it might be something that writers just can't help doing when they write. But if you're explaining things that are going on, it seems more, and it's something I've called out on my channel when people write in. It's a red flag when it seems like it's being written, the story's being written as a novel instead of you telling, what happened. At first, doctors were stumped by her condition, she explained. But she said a new round of tests last year pointed to a disquieting cause. Someone close to me was tainting my food. The person responsible for orchestrating this Shakespearean plot against her, Kenyon alleges in a lawsuit filed this month in Williamson County Court in Tennessee, is her husband Lawrence R. Kenyon II. She is suing him along with two people employed by the couple for up to $20 million, claiming assault by poisoning and intentional interference with business relationships, among other causes of action. She claims to have frequently choked after eating food served to her by her husband, who allegedly told their son on one occasion, as he watched his mother vomiting on the floor, "She does that all the time, ignore it." He enlisted an assistant, originally employed as a tutor for their child, to ply her with tainted food and drink, the writer asserts. And she doesn't. So she's so privileged, or she's in such a state where she doesn't even have to make her own food or serve herself. Yet she's on the floor vomiting? Like, if I'm on the floor continually vomiting from the food I'm eating, I'm going to start getting my own food. Her husband's motivation, the complaint maintains, went beyond profuse insecurity and insidious jealousy of her success. He also stood to gain millions of dollars upon her demise through life insurance and the value of her estate, including her copyrights and trademarks. The filing accuses him of bleeding money from his wife's business accounts, as well as taking out a life insurance policy on her, making himself as the sole beneficiary. Maybe it's legit. In a statement provided through a lawyer to the Tennessean, Lawrence Kenyon denied the allegations, countering that his wife had blurred the line between fiction and reality. These astonishing and unsubstantiated allegations may stand as her best fantasy creation yet, said Lawrence Kenyon, whose career as a lawyer has included a stint with a local office of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. He said the prolific author, who has written under numerous pseudonyms, concocted the story to outmaneuver him in ongoing divorce proceedings. So this is just a divorce ploy. In her lawsuit, the novelist says it was only after her husband had filed divorce last year that she had her blood, nails, and hair examined for toxins. It became clear to her, according to the complaint, that the longer the husband was away from home, the more her health improved. The test allegedly uncovered high levels of lithium, tin, barium, platinum, and thorium. The Williamson County Sheriff's Office is investigating. But Kelly Johnson Arbor, a medical toxicologist at the National Capital Poison Center, told the Washington Post that the possibility of external contamination raises questions about the effectiveness of hair testing, and that many of the metals apparently discovered are not commonly associated with significant toxicity in humans. Kenyon wrote to her fans, "Rest assured I am much better today, as my symptoms have dramatically improved since this past March when it all came to light and the authorities were notified. Thankfully, I continue to get better every day. She and Lawrence Kenyon have 3 sons, all born in the 90s, the author who said sustained her through the ordeal." She said the fiasco created lasting professional hardship. She apologized to her fans, saying she couldn't confirm an exact date for her forthcoming book, Born of Blood, a tale of a tortured kinship between an assassin and bounty hunter and the target she is meant to be pursuing. The supernatural stories spun by Kenyon make Macbeth and Othello seem quaint. Her books are populated by shapeshifters, heartbreakers, and vampire slayers. Her 2014 book, Son of No One, which came out the same year that Kenyon says she began to fall ill, opens with this pithy warning from the protagonist. There's a fine line between important to me and dead to me, and you're currently stomping all over it. The suit against her husband is not the first time Kenyon has taken high-profile legal action. In 2016, she sued Cassandra Clare, an author of young adult fiction, alleging that the fellow best-selling novelist had lifted elements of her books. Clare, who denied the allegation, claimed on her Tumblr page that the case was dropped, while Kenyon said, Tumblr page? That's where I would expect paranormal romance writers to freaking hang, is on exactly where I would expect that, is on Tumblr. Oh, God. But I would also understand why you want, if that's the genre and that's the fan base, oh, my God, I understand why you want to stay anonymous. Holy shit. That's all you need, a bunch of friggin' bronies and furries trying to dox you all day. Ugh. Ugh. While Kenyon said in her January newsletter that it was settled outside of court and was not dropped, the copyright claims were dropped, the court documents show, and a trademark dispute was settled in May 2018. But this new legal row goes far beyond publishing grievances. In her letter to fans, Kenyon said it also involved the dissolution of my 28-year marriage. She met the man who would become her husband in a sociology class at Georgia College, a public liberal arts school in Midgeville, Georgia. They married in a goat pasture in Virginia in 1990. They moved to Jackson, Mississippi so he could attend law school. Marriage should not give one person the right to steal a lifetime of work or the thoughts from another, she observed in the note to her fans. Oh, she doesn't want to. So what it looks like here is that she had a very successful writing career, and she doesn't want to have to share half with her husband. I'm sorry. And now she's doing what a lot of women do, is they make up allegations. She might even went so far as to poison herself somehow. In an Instagram post last year, she said she believed she had been duped by her husband. The lawsuit paints a picture of a spiteful man who took advantage of his wife's success, hoarding her financial awards for his own personal use, yet also seeking to snuff out her talent. But he's a lawyer. I mean, he did go to law school. He is a practicing attorney. You know, what? She's obviously had more success that she doesn't want to share. The author began work on her celebrated Dark Hunter series in the 1980s, before anyone had heard of Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Harry Potter, as the complaint observes, because it was rare at the time for a woman to write horror, and because there was no established genre for what Kenyon was writing. She had difficulty finding a market for her trademark niche and defined that debunked existing male-dominated marketplace. I'm sorry, that is not horror, okay? Paranormal romance isn't horror. I know there's all forms of horror. You don't see Michael Myers making out with anybody. Oh my God, he's so hot. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh God. And then you got to contend with her fans. Oh Lord. Oh, the smell of desperation, sweat, and cat piss. Ugh. From her very first contract for a novel in 1993, the complaint holds. Her husband insisted on negotiating it for her, allegedly proceeding to alienate so many figures in the publishing industry that she had to resort to using pseudonyms for several subsequent projects. But he's a lawyer. Somebody's got to protect her interests. She almost quit writing in 1996, she recalls, after her husband's hostility had grown so severe that she had to hide her computer in a closet. You know, this is I'm seeing histrionic red flag. Like, these are it's one after another with this. One after another. Okay, these are the histrionic red flags that are just, I gotta hide, and I'm this $1 million, and she's obviously a millionaire. And you're telling me he's setting up her contracts, but then having to hide her computer in the closet of the mansion. Come on. I understand why you wanted to stay anonymous. I can only imagine. So that Mr. Kenyon wouldn't see it or otherwise would launch into a verbal attack, demeaning her and negating her aspirations to have more of her works published. She persisted in her efforts, she claims, and when she was able to steal a single stamp from her husband's wallet, oh, come on. See, this is the histrionic red flag. A single stamp as I'm typing it out in a closet. Please, he's right, fantasy writer. And she's probably been doing this her entire life. Which ultimately yielded a 3-book contract with publisher HarperCollins. So the book she wrote in a closet from the stamp he had to steal out of his wallet. Single stamp. How do you mail a whole manuscript on a stamp? That doesn't even make sense. Wait a minute. Who the fuck fact-checked this from the Washington Post? How do you send a whole book manuscript with a single stamp from the wallet? Bookman, they're like this. They're like, you can't, what? Wait a minute. Fake news. God, this came from the Washington Post. Fake news. They always trip themselves up. Wait, am I missing this here? She almost quit writing in 1996. She recalls after her husband's hostility had grown so severe, she had to hide in her computer in a closet so Mr. Kenyon couldn't see it or would launch into a verbal attack. Well, where was she printing it out from? Into a verbal, demeaning her and negating her aspirations to have more of her works published. She persisted in her efforts. She claimed she was able to steal a single stamp from her husband's wallet for a submission, which ultimately yielded a 3-book contract with publisher HarperCollins. What's the submission? What could she, to get a 3-book, what did she print it out on? If she's typing it in the computer in 1996. A computer in, I mean, they were laptops, but they were fucking massive. Like, wouldn't you have to pull everything in there? How would you print it out in 1996? And how are you sending whatever it is on a single stamp that would yield you, what could you possibly send that would yield her a 3-book HarperCollins contract on a single fucking stamp that she typed out in 1996 in her fucking closet? Does fucking Washington Post, does anybody in this fucking paper do their job? I can figure this out in my fucking kitchen. Holy shit. Her husband's decision to move the family to a rural area outside of Nashville in 1999 further undermined his wife's career, the complaint maintains. She struggled to promote her writing and contact agents while at the same time caring for a newborn, their 3rd child. Sometimes her fans had to drive to her events. The lawsuit enumerates his supposed tactics, shampooing the carpets 10 minutes before his wife needed to leave for the airport, hiding her laptop, misplacing files, shrinking her clothes, and putting a large flower arrangement near her computer so the cats would knock it over onto her work. But the complaint also argues that he grew in rage when she wasn't working hard enough. He attacked her for goofing off, the complaint said. Oh my God. So, wow. 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 Again, a lot of these things would have been controlled if she would have controlled her own stuff. But again, because she seems like such an entitled person where she has people serving her, but I don't buy this anyway. I don't buy any of this anyway. In fact, she says she was merely pausing for a moment to peer out the window, pondering the plot in her stories. And that's the end of the article. Wow, is that awful? And I guess that's her. So again, histrionics know no bounds. They know no color. Because this woman, I guess, is a multimillionaire. She don't want to give up. She don't want to give up half of what she earned, though. She don't want to give up half of what she earned. Hell no. Hell no. You got to explain it to me. How in 1996 she had what computer could you take in? What book could you write in a closet? How physically could you do it? You can't physically do it. There's so much going on with this article. Who's working? Who did this? Who left that unchallenged? Like, wait a minute. What computer could you possibly drag into a closet in 19? How did you print it out? How did you send something with a single stamp that got you a 3-book contract with HarperCollins? This is when the narcissist overdoes their histrionics. They overdo the histrionics, and it's just ridiculous. I can't believe the Washington Post didn't pick up on that. Well, I can because it's the Washington Post. So, thank you so much for the submission and your contribution, Anonymous. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype or a phone call, or have a private video made, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.